This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carinante.
Welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carinante. Thanks for hanging with us on a Tuesday. Spring training underway, not the game part, just the part where they're milling about backfields and on the main field of George M. Steinbrenner Field, and you're like, it's got to be easy to get autographs now, but it probably isn't. A couple live BPs have captured the attention of fans, but it's mostly been the quotables that have got us paying attention. Aaron Judge went on a rant yesterday. Giancarlo Stanton was actually asked to follow up on Judge's rant today and kind of declined. But Aaron Judge did speak, and I think sometimes fans were humming along and then snapping their fingers, and sometimes fans at the end of it were probably more like, wait, how did you reach that conclusion from the beginning stuff that you said? So we feel validated. We also feel a little bit confused. We like CeCe Sabathia's retweet. We'll talk about all that. Plus, the young guns starting spring training games off right. Bryce Harper said, what? And the Mets added some more former Yankees in case you thought they were done doing that. Thanks for joining us, typically every Monday and Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and then on your favorite podcast platform afterwards. Today, it's Tuesday because of the holiday, 5 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for joining, and we hope that some of you will show up as the show goes on. Thomas Carinante, welcome to the show. Cam Schlittler threw today like they said he would. Most of the news about the players on the field has been pretty exciting, and the velocity has been a little higher than it should be. But mostly we're focused on the quotes this time around because we're still just kind of waiting for the action.
Yeah, look, the Ben Rice neck thing had me worried, but I wasn't going to breathe life into that. It just didn't feel right. The Cam Schlittler back thing, you were just like, we got live news of that during the podcast.
I didn't like either of these. I mean, Ben Rice neck thing is hilarious because it's like, I mean, do I want to see anybody get injured? No, but you know who I really don't want to see wake up with a weird injury? Ben Rice and Cam Schlittler. There they are. That's what happened.
The two most crucial year-over-year growth pieces that the Yankees have. But
before the games even begin, without even working out, they're both injured. Like, okay,
yeah,
cool.
But for the most part, knock on wood, I've liked what I've seen. Yankee social team doing some nice interactive stuff, top of the morning. We got some candid quotes from Aaron Judge. I think we talked the last episode about the candid quotes from Jazz and Max Fried. Like the energy and what's going on. So games are going to start Friday. We're going to see a little bit of action with players who need to prove themselves, take that step up. I think that there might be a little bit more to discuss with the roster spots up for grabs, or at least just the fact that the roster could be upgraded in some respect if younger players have the opportunity to make their mark this spring. The Yankees typically don't overvalue that. We've seen prospects perform tremendously in spring training only to just go right back to minor league camp. But this year feels a little bit different running it back, but claiming they're not running it back because we have to assume the trade deadline pieces and the young talent in-house is going to elevate things. Whether we agree or not, Aaron Judge had something to say about running it back. He had a question mark about it, and then he loved it. I absolutely love these comments. It was confusing, the roller coaster you went through. It was a long response. It was a candid response to the question he was asked about. Point blank, the Yankees offseason was slow. It was unspectacular. It was frustrating in some ways, but the end result is kind of what I think a lot of people in the Yankees organization wanted, bringing back this group that they had high hopes for last year that got bounced from the playoffs by a team of destiny in the Toronto Blue Jays. Been listening to some other baseball podcasts too, and like a lot of people aren't high on the Blue Jays this year. I get it. I'm not going to even discuss that because we don't need to be in the crosshairs of anybody else in terms of rival fans. I do think obviously they're in for a regression. Like you don't just replicate World Series appearance year over year. That's not really a standard for any team. Unless you're the Dodgers at this point or the Yankees 20-something years ago. But the Yankees were truly believing in this 2025 roster and thinking that they could make the necessary jump to the World Series. They fell short. The Blue Jays were better. They were, I think, more conducive to a playoff environment, the team top to bottom. And the Yankees running it back is them saying, we think we have a better chance than you do based on whatever you guys did in the offseason to upgrade. Don't forget, the Blue Jays have a bunch of injuries. They lost Bo Bichette, so I think there are some impactful moves over there that are going to tip the balance of power. But Aaron Judge, in the end, happy, loves that the Yankees are running it back. I can't disagree with him because he's the man who is the captain, who is overseeing all of this. And I think if he is happy with the result, then we have to be for the time being. But the beginning of what he said was very interesting. He said it was brutal to watch the Yankees sit around in the offseason, and that it was tough to watch upgrade and make sure that they were getting better as quickly as possible early on in the offseason. And the way he finished the quote, man, we're the New York Yankees. Let's get the right people in here. Let's make the trade. Let's make the signings. Let's get 2026 off and running. And I think that it breathes some life into the fan base because that's how a lot of people feel. And I think there's varying degrees of how people feel. You are either a lunatic and you think that everything is 1996 to 2000 and that it should be that way forever. Or you're simply, we are the Yankees. We are not a mid-market team. We might not be the strongest front office or the strongest payroll out there, but we're the New York Yankees. Let's make the moves. Let's figure it out. Goes to show that I think the players also have this thought process to an extent. I think Aaron Judge understands the business of the game. I think he knows the Yankees can't be spending $490 million on their payroll, but something to be said about being intentional and aggressive early on in the offseason.
Yeah, I think people need to, forever reckon with the reality that the 96 to 2000 Yankees did not just buy 3 All-Stars every offseason. They were built on a foundation of player development, both internally from their farm and through keen additions like Scott Brocious. Like they're bringing in the perfect pieces. Every offseason, they're getting the guys they need. They are not just spending wildly. And when they needed to, they did. Like Chuck Knobloch was a luxury trade addition. Roger Clemens was obviously the height of this. Oh, can we upgrade on David Wells, a beloved member of our core? Yes, we can. So we're going to trade for Roger Clemens. But they're swinging blockbuster deals to supplement their core. Right now, we're still trying to figure out if they have a core. And since it's harder and harder to fleece other owners and GMs, you kind of have to supplement that core with expensive additions. The Yankees have been, I refuse to just outwardly shill and be like, they've been so close. Like, they have not done enough, by my measure, to give themselves a roster that can't be denied. They never enter the season as the World Series favorite. They never finish it as the best team in the American League or in baseball. That is something that needs to be hung in front of the clubhouse at George M. Steinbrenner Field and at Yankee Stadium. Like, that's true. They have never made themselves the most powerful team in baseball. When Aaron Judge says we're the New York Yankees, that is still what he's referring to. Yeah. But objectively, it's tough to compare 96 to 2000 because the payroll disparity would grow over the next decade, like 2001 to 2009. The Yankees' on-field product got worse when that happened. They were at their best when they use their financial resources and the might of the program, who doesn't want to join a dynasty, to keep filling in gaps. So they're combining elite scouting, elite work down on the farm, graduating these prospects rather than trading for them, trading less painful. They traded Eric Milton for Knobloch. That was like a big deal. This team has almost no resemblance to that. And this team is going to have to rely harder on going all in with blockbuster trades and scouting around the huge maneuvers you make so that you don't lose a step. Mm-hmm. If you get rid of, like, Ryan McMahon has to be Scott Brocious. He might not be. He might be. Probably isn't. But maybe he is. That is the kind of thing that the 98, 99 Yankees would have done. They would have gotten an undervalued player somewhere else and plugged him in, and he would have been a mainstay. That said, who cares how they do it? The goal has got to be the supreme team in the major leagues. And if you can't beat the Dodgers, or if you can't steal the headlines from the Dodgers, you at least have to be the team in the American League that builds around the 3-time MVP Aaron Judge and makes him feel like, I don't know how he feels. I can't get in his head. Maybe he thinks he's taking the field with the best team in the American League right now. but they're objectively, they may be close. They may be that team by the end of the year, but right now they aren't the overwhelming on paper favorites. And it would be nice to give him that. Now, these quotes, Judge calling the early part of the winter brutal while he waited for the Yankees to make moves and said it was pretty tough to watch. He meant the waiting was brutal, not the offseason moves. Like, he's not
People think he meant the offseason.
He's not calling Cade Winquest brutal, but he is saying that the process of not making these additions was obviously brutal for him to wait through. And we know he talks to the front office. Obviously, he's the one who got us Alex Verdugo. Thanks for that, Captain. But obviously, he gave his recommendations, and then he had to wait forever for Cody Bellinger to come join the team. And he had to wait forever for anything to happen between Trent Grisham and Bellinger, essentially. And then they bring in Paul Goldschmidt at the end. And clearly that is what he meant in part in terms of what he wanted to see, because he now feels satisfied. Quote, we got a special group of players here. We got a good core, good young core. So it was frustrating, but I think we're right where we need to be. A lot of fans out there would argue we are not right where we need to be. But the shill in me is coming out watching them at spring training and watching the chemistry and camaraderie of running it back and having Cody Bellinger talk about how important a parade is to him, and having Paul Goldschmidt basically acknowledge, I'm not here to do any of the things you're worried about me doing. I'm here to mentor Ben Rice and take platoon plate appearances and be a bench player and be Tim Raines from the 96 Yankees. Like, he didn't start it, but when you needed to go to the bench, you had a Hall of Famer there. And it's sort of the same situation for Gold, and it's got to be the same situation for Goldschmidt for this to make sense. So if anybody's listening to these Aaron Judge quotes and they are saying, I like the first part, I hated the second part, we're not where we need to be, you may be right. And if I'm drawing up a perfect offseason map, honestly, truth serum, I'm doing pretty much exactly what the Yankees did, but I am adding one more bona fide rotation option that I can believe in. And I am signing Robert Suarez. So I'm not doing Kyle Tucker instead of Bellinger. Mm-hmm. And I'm not like, I don't need to give Paul Goldschmidt's money to Randall Grichuk. And I'm not trying to, like if a Corey Seager trade fell into my lap, then I'm absolutely doing that. I don't think I'm signing Bo Bichette. I really don't. You could talk me into that. But most of what I'm doing is Bellinger, yes, absolutely. Ryan Weathers, I like it. Yeah. Paul Goldschmidt, insurance, I like it. But then one rotation option where I can really say, now that is a hang your hat on that. And then bullpen, I need an undeniable eighth inning guy or closer. Mm-hmm. I can't be moving forward with what we're looking at. But I wouldn't deviate too far from what Judge says is the perfect offseason. I just would have built on it. He can't say that. We can. So I'm going to give Judge's quote like a B+. Fans out there are going to give it like a C- because they want the Yankees to drop $1 billion every offseason. And I don't think that was viable. But I do think you can agree with what Judge said. It was brutal, but we're closer to the right track now. I agree. We are. I see the track. But could they have done more? And could they have done more in that interim when bullpen arms were flying off the board? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, what is he supposed to say? To bummer that Trent accepted the qualifying offer and kind of put the offseason into, like, that was the difference for me. I like Trent Grisham a lot. I don't bring him back because
I keep forgetting he's here.
Yeah, like that. I wasn't so keen on adding a rotation option. Robert Suarez, when he dropped for that price, I almost punched a hole in my computer because that felt like a layup for the Yankees to outbid the Braves by $5 million more, and that you have your answer right there.
They were talking this weekend about like the relievers they've paid, and Britton and Ottavino got the last multi-year deals, and people were pressing them a little bit on, is it just organizational policy to never pay a reliever now? I gotta say, even if they won't admit it, not paying Robert Suarez that money makes it feel like organizational policy to never pay a reliever now.
Agreed. I think that and again, it's like, it's their fault. They dove into the well too aggressively with the wrong people. Aroldis Chapman, they thought they were pulling off a heist, and they were just getting him at a discount because he had domestic violence allegations attached.
They forgot to tell him to control the fastball too, which would have been huge if they had done that. Yeah.
And then they re-signed him when they had the option to let him go. So that's the Yankees' fault. Again, they
forgot to teach him. Still forgot to teach him how to pitch. It took Connor Wong to teach him how to pitch in year 19.
Two separate stints. then you bring in Ottavino from the Rockies. It wasn't the worst idea, but like you can't pay a reliever from the Rockies that much money. Britton, I would have never paid Britton that money, but I wasn't mad at the move. I thought it was an aggressive move, but it ended up blowing up in their faces spectacularly. And they picked the wrong guys. It was either they picked the wrong guys or they got bad luck. And I'm sick and tired of saying the Yankees have bad luck because you can't have this much bad luck back to back to back. But yeah, my moves would have been Robert Suarez, let Grisham go, give center field to Jones/Dominguez, figure it out, and then trade for a shortstop. If you have to overpay for like a Nico Horner to take over at shortstop and then figure out later down the road, I don't know. If you wanted to open up the can of worms about Bryce Harper and the Phillies after those comments went down earlier in the offseason, then so be it. To me, the Yankees are one elite bullpen piece away and one clutch bat away from actually like being in the AL pennant conversation. And then I guess by default, the World Series conversation, but they're wildly outmatched by the Dodgers if the Dodgers were to make it to the World Series. So I think Judge's comments were the right amount of spice and the right amount of towing the company line. I don't think there was anything wrong with what he said. He is, again, I don't even think the comments about him being excited about the team coming together are disingenuous. I think he actually feels that. I think he's excited about that. I think, again, the whole start of the offseason where it was a sure thing Cody Bellinger was returning, and then a week goes by, and you're like, okay, like, guess they're setting the tables for negotiations. 3 weeks go by, okay, probably happening at the winter meetings. 2 weeks later, the winter meetings happen. Okay, guess don't know when this is happening, so wonder when it's going to happen. And then another month goes by, and then it's like, all right, he's finally here. So he was probably staring down the barrel of like, are we not running this back? And if we're not running this back, why are we not making other moves right now when every other team is making moves right now? Because I'm sure he had no insight into the negotiations with Bellinger. And then you learn that the Yankees essentially just tried to get their way with it, and Scott Boras ended up getting his way. And the fact that they still had bullpen needs, and the moves for the bullpen didn't come until later in the offseason. So yeah, he's sitting there for the entire month after a week after the World Series through the winter meetings, and is shrugging because it's like, where is this team going? This team was supposed to be a championship contender last year, and now we're not even getting the pieces back that we had that brought us to that point in the ALDS that helped us beat the Red Sox. And I don't know what you want him to say. You want him to say he's disappointed with the additions? Like, that's never going to happen. But again, the chemistry here seems good. The personnel, for the most part, fits. Yes, there are roster holes. There's always going to be roster holes with this current iteration of the Yankees. But if a few things can click and a few things can bounce their way, it's a different story. We are not getting negative yet. It is spring training. We will get negative after 2 months of play and if things aren't shaping up the way that they need to be. But if Aaron Judge is happy, that's great. I am glad that as the captain, he spoke out and said that, the process, again, it comes down to the process for the front office. That's what's stale. It's the waiting around. It's the passive additions. It's the letting the market develop and crystallize before your eyes. And it's all code word for, we want to get our way, and we are not overbidding, or we're not bidding against ourselves, or we're not letting any other GM or agent take advantage of us. And that's the frustrating part, because you're the Yankees. You have to give to get. You have to pay to get what you want. And the passivity on that front is frustrating. And if it's frustrating for us, how is it not frustrating for the man who essentially took a discount to remain with the Yankees, remains probably the biggest bargain on a blockbuster contract in the entire league, and then is sitting there with his hands in his pockets waiting for the team to make their first big move, which they didn't until January 18th, was it, when Bellinger signed? So yeah, the comments there were valid, and now we're moving ahead. Spring training, he's excited. We're excited.
CC Sabathia gave him the retweet, though, in terms
Hell
of,
yeah.
weren't the Yankees, we're the New York Yankees. Like, what are we doing here? You always like to see that. You don't understand how much they miss CC Sabathia after he hopped out. He's got so many business ventures. He's got his hand in so many different pies. Like, he can't be around the team. He's not employed by the team, so why would he be? But they truly do miss that energy and that leadership. And you can sort of draw the line in the sand between a really fun era that got close and not close enough that ended in 2019, and then the shortened season, and then all that bullshit in 2021. Varying degrees of pain in 21, 22, 23. They thought Juan Soto might drag them out of it. It was a one-year engagement. They're still trying to pick up the pieces from that. And maybe they have. And maybe they believe in this team for a reason. I still think the one thing that gets overlooked a little bit is that we always talk about how they're never going into October as the hot team. They keep running into these buzzsaws. It's sort of valid to note that last October, they actually were 25-9 in that last month and a half. They really were gelling, and they win a dramatic Red Sox series. They actually did seem to be the team that was getting hot at the right time, whereas the Blue Jays were missing Bo Bichette, and they had injury concerns and a thin rotation. And the thought was that the Yankees might get a chance to get that in-season revenge based on what the Blue Jays did to them all summer long. And then Toronto just pummeled them. And once the Yankees couldn't line up the rotation the way they wanted to and had Luis Gil in game one and Will Warren coming out of the bullpen, they were dead in the water. But it looked like they actually were the hot team getting the bounces until, of course, the Blue Jays proved that 2025 was their year. And there was nothing the Yankees could do about it. So hopefully that isn't the last chance they have to roll into October with the proper vibes. That might be part of the reason they're bringing back this core the way that they are too, because they thought they got it right down the stretch last year. They thought they figured it out in August and September. And, they figured it out enough to beat the Red Sox in one Roman Anthony free playoff series. That's where the frustration comes in a little bit. Because, hey, look, if the power of friendship Yankees have what it takes to put it together for a full season this year and get over the hump, everybody owes them massive apologies. And it would be great. It would feel great. Again, we're not getting negative. There's nothing more that I want this year than for the Yankees to win the World Series and to make every fan who is angry about them running it back eat crow because they figured out the proper mix of talent in August and September, and it turned out all they needed to do was run it back. We'll see. I can't get mad at Aaron Judge. Fans, I think, do need to learn the difference. There is no excuse for lying to the fans, but when players say we believe in this team, or Aaron Boone says I love the guys in this locker room or whatever, that is not lying to fans. That is selling the product. That is, puffing up a group of guys that needs to be connected and attack the season ferociously. The lying to fans is when they say we have metrics that say IKF is the best defensive shortstop in baseball. And it's like, bullshit. No, you don't. Stop telling me that. Or when they say I'm totally healthy, I'm just sort of in a rut right now, and then they hit the IL. It's like, well, that was garbage. Like, I didn't need that. I could tell this player was hurt. You're telling me he's not. And then he goes on the injured list like Volpe last year. And Volpe saying, I don't want to use this as an excuse, but it's unbelievable the kinds of things they pulled out of my body or whatever with his shoulder surgery. What we can't take is them looking us in the eye and saying everything's fine when we know it's not. It's completely different for them to sit here as spokespeople and say, I love this roster and I can't wait to go out and compete with these guys. Because I hope that's how they're feeling. I hope they love their teammates, and I hope they are ready to go out and compete. Fans yelling bullshit at Judge or Boone saying, I love these guys or whatever, that is where you need to just look yourself in the mirror and think about what you're doing.
The lines have been blurred. Brian Cashman telling us the Yankees are not running it back is a lie. The Yankees are running it back. They're not running it back from last February, but they are running it back from the ALDS, which is the line of demarcation where their season ended.
And I challenge everyone to tell me this isn't a championship caliber team. I mean, I can't right now. It's mid-February. I can't tell you anything. Neither can you. You can't tell me anything.
Exactly. So the comments that are emotionally charged are not lying. Like, I think that's probably the way that we can decipher. Guys happy to see each other and be playing alongside one another. That is not a lie. And I guess we could call it a lie if we saw the B-roll of them at practice or them walking into the facility, and they looked openly disgusted with one another. Like, that would, okay, yeah, it doesn't seem like you're out, but they're not. Like, the footage has been great. Everybody seems to be having a good time. Everybody's excited to be back. Everybody's excited for the seasons to start. So yeah, I mean, when we are trying to parse through the commentary, you really got to be careful. And look, I'll say it. I got duped by the IKF stuff last week. IKF didn't talk shit on the Yankees. I took I trusted local media
Yeah.
to the point where Red Sox beat writers explicitly said Isaiah Kiner-Falefa said the Blue Jays were glad the Red Sox defeated the Yankees in the DS because they thought that was the better matchup. All IKF said was that we were scared of facing Garrett Crochet twice. He's a beast. In the end, we were glad that we ended up having to face the Yankees over the Red Sox because the result was them beating the Yankees. So obviously he would be glad that that was the result. So we went off because the Red Sox had a PR tour of 3 previous guys talking shit on the Yankees. And you got to listen to a lot of these interviews because the snippets of them don't do it justice. They're a little bit misleading. And when it comes to players being asked questions at the arrival of spring training, there's going to be a lot of different things that are presented to them. And there's going to be a lot of ways that it's contextualized. And this one was wrong. So watch it closer, watch the full 20-minute interviews if you really want to dive in. But yeah, Red Sox media did that to themselves. Not what IKF said. And I don't see Yankees media doing that, thankfully, because there's a good group of people out there reporting on the team, but you never know. So just be careful.
Yeah, we got the full Judge quote for a reason. Again, IKF just sort of, it turns out, was pumping up the team that he's joining, which there is no reason not to do that. So we didn't want to face Garrett Crochet because he's nasty. Great. That's how you do. That's how you introduce yourself to a teammate. You fluff up the guys in that locker room. If the Yankees had a new addition this offseason from a rival, and he was like, man, we wanted no part of Aaron Judge, we would have all said, oh, that's great. That's awesome. I'm so glad he's getting on board so early. But yeah, IKF glad with the result, not celebrating in the clubhouse the day that the Yankees finished off the Red Sox, which is the way it was sold to us. The way it was sold to a lot of people. It's probably why Aaron Boone commented the way he did.
Even he said he was like surprised IKF would say that. Yeah. I mean, he managed the guy. Surprised he would say it. He didn't say it.
Yeah, I would have been surprised as well if I knew him and that was something that was said, but it wasn't, apparently. We're seeing a lot of high velo at spring training so far. Yeah. I'm torn on all this stuff. I don't think anybody needs to be hitting the upper echelon of their velocity at this juncture. Ryan Weathers sat like 96, 97 last year, hit 98.5 on Sunday's BP sesh. Look, obviously I'd rather somebody look awesome than look terrible, but Ryan Weathers needs to reshape his fastball. Velocity has never been a concern for him. I don't need to see the extra 2 miles an hour in February. I just need to see him working and getting better. And if he's doing that, then fantastic. But talk about the one guy who I don't need to see blowing the ball past his teammates right now to make a statement. It's probably Ryan Weathers. As for the way we're going to start off camp, first 2 games are going to be Elmer Rodriguez on the road in Baltimore, followed by Carlos LaGrange on Saturday at George M. Steinbrenner Field against the Detroit Tigers. Both are on the Gotham Sports app. The Saturday game, the home game, it should be on the YES Network as well. These are the guys that you want to watch. Aaron Boone said he's a big fan of Rodriguez, who threw in Monday's live sessions. Said he obviously has a future as a starter in this league. He's got the polish. He's got a deep arsenal. There's probably more of a chance that he could fill in the rotation this summer and be competent than there is of anybody else in the system doing that. From LaGrange to Ben Hess to Bryce Cunningham to Brendan Beck. Like, Rodriguez is the guy who's most big league ready from that group, probably. And we will see him on Friday in the road game. Now, LaGrange, something else entirely. And I'm torn on this because I understand both sides, but he showed me really all I needed to see yesterday against Aaron Judge, where we know he's got 102, 103 in him at his peak. Not sure where, the command is going to be evolving. Every time he takes the mound, we're going to be seeing a different level of command. That's why he is so terrifying. That's why we don't know what he is as a prospect yet. That's why he's in the back portion of the top 100 and sometimes even out of the top 100 rather than being in the top 5, which is where he would be if he could consistently spot this disgusting stuff. But he goes 99 to Aaron Judge. It's a live BP. I don't know why you need to go that much faster. And Judge rips it. Homers. He's Aaron Judge. That's what he does. Then he faces him one more time. And consider the competitive fire stoked because he then goes up to that top number at 102.6, right on the inner corner of the plate. Down and in. Judge strikes out. Oohs and ahs from the crowd. He will be starting Saturday for a reason in the home game. Now, a lot of people are ready to anoint him as the new Dellin Betances and the new bullpen solution and the reason the Yankees didn't go out and get a Robert Suarez because they can go bring in LaGrange and just bring him up from the. And I hear you, and I get it, and it is tempting and tantalizing to use this guy in that role this year. But I do want to caution everybody who's saying develop him as a starter until you know he's not a starter, but you can use him in the bullpen now anyway. That is a slippery slope, and it's hard to put the toothpaste back in the tube. And he might be a bullpen ace someday, or he might be a regular ace. I'd really like to know what he is before I start counting on him and anointing him to be the Yankees setup man next to Camilo Doval this year. I think a lot of people maybe weren't around for the Joba rules. And I think maybe a lot of people weren't around for Phil Hughes in 2009 going back into the rotation in 2010 because, I mean, Joba, they could never figure out what to do with him. And he was a starting pitcher all through the minors, and he was a dominant starting pitcher in Nebraska. Then he is disgusting in a 2-month stretch in 2007, and then everybody views him as a reliever from that point forward. He has an innings cap. He's shuttled back and forth. He's still great at times, but he's never quite the same. Phil Hughes, injured in 2008, that was his year to shine, but the Yankees were sort of out of the playoff race. Give him the spotlight. It throwing a no-hitter in Texas, leaves with a hamstring injury. It's weird. I guess that was 2007. I mean, he was definitely called up in 2007. He definitely appeared in the postseason in 2007, that brief DS. Yeah, so he got 8 starts in 2008, and he was terrible. And I guess that was all the patience we had at that time, where it was like, all right, I've seen enough. I don't think this guy has what it takes to be a starter. Age 23, they put him in the bullpen. He's basically the 8th inning guy all year. He didn't struggle once until the playoffs in 2009. And at that point, they did decide to move him back in the rotation in 2010. And he made the All-Star team. But, he wasn't the guy we were sold. 146 Ks and 176 in the 3rd innings. The upper echelon stuff wasn't there. The gopher balls were there regularly. He threw 191 innings in 2012 and allowed 35 home runs. He was like Will Warren at that point. Some starts would be 7 shutout. A lot of them would be 4 innings, 6 runs, and 3 homers. Like, once you show me a guy being brilliant out of a big league bullpen, it's really hard to convince me, one guy, that we should try it again as a starter, because I already know what his peak looks like in the bullpen. And think about how hard it is to convince me that we should try this person again in the rotation. Now you got to convince the whole fan base that, I'm sorry, I know LaGrange was brilliant last year. He's really the only reason our bullpen survived, but actually we're going to have to put him back in the rotation. I hope you understand. We'll figure out the bullpen again next year. And then it's even worse if he struggles in the bullpen, because then you're saying, okay, back to the rotation it is, but no one has faith in this person anymore. Our only experience with him is him blowing games or struggling with his command and control. So, hey, it could all work out, but slippery slope if your plan is to have him in the bullpen this year and in the rotation next year. Because if it works in the bullpen, no one's going to want to take him out. And if it doesn't, no one's going to really want to anoint him as anything anymore.
I am simply wondering what is going to happen here, because LaGrange had hit a career high in innings last year, 120. Before that, not a whole lot. We're looking at 21 innings in 2024, plus another 8 in the Arizona Fall League. So 29. You're looking at 41 2/3 in 2023 and 33 in 2022. So I am fooled here in terms of what they're going to be able to do. And don't forget, he was a starter all these other times. He made 10 starts, 11 appearances in 2022, 11 and 12 in 2023, 8 and 9 in 2024, and he made 4 starts in the AFL and 5 appearances and only logged 8 2/3 innings. So I do not know what is going to happen here. Again, last year was incredibly encouraging from what we saw. Look, the guy just has to limit his walks, right? And we're looking pretty good. His time at AA Somerset was very good, except he averaged nearly 6 walks per 9 innings, which is not anything you can do at the major league level. You will get absolutely destroyed. But the strikeouts are there. The limiting hits is there. The limiting home runs is there. So if he becomes a starter, for example, like out of spring this year, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is no way he breaks camp with the Yankees, right?
I don't think there's any chance of that.
Okay,
I
good.
don't think.
have had those thoughts. I don't want to assume and jump to conclusions, but you look at a guy who's had 16 games of experience at AA, and I'm just not sure that you're going to fast track him this early. He's entering his age 23 season, and there's still plenty of development to be had, especially if you're looking at him being a starter. So if you look at, if there was a chance he would break camp, right, that would give the Yankees a lot of trade leverage with their other guys. That would allow them to, maybe more liberally talk about Will Warren or Luis Heel in discussions that would help them land another piece for their roster. I don't know what that would look like, but yeah, I agree. They need to find a lane for LaGrange, and they need to stick to it. And I'm not against either, because this team needs a bullpen ace. He's getting a lot of Dellin Betances comps. I think it's totally fair based on what we've seen. It's probably the most valid comparison to a former Yankee who is a star yet to this point. So would anybody object to having that type of talent in the back end of the bullpen and trading in his potential ability to log 25 starts a year? I mean, I wouldn't. Any prospect that comes up and can make any sort of impact should be an A+ in your book, based on how infrequent these guys are able to carve out a role and actually be contributing everyday players. So I hope they have a good plan in place for him. The early returns at spring training are awesome. I envision him, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, if he has a really good first half, he's up at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
He's got to be, because at that point, he'll have essentially, combining last year and this year, a full season's worth at AA, maybe a little bit of seasoning at AAA, but I think at this point we all know that AA is the real test. That's where all of the top talent is. And then AAA, you're getting into big league roster fodder, veterans who are simply filling in gaps at that level. So I think it's possible that that's what we see. That could be one of the impact additions, and then they're able to trade other pitching that they have that they're not completely married to for maybe another bat or maybe some more bullpen help. But yeah, just please don't screw this kid up, because he looks pretty damn good.
Yeah, just do whatever you have to not screw him up. People are talking about the second half, and I think that's right. The Yankees, I mean, you look at their bullpen depth chart, they have built the funniest bullpen ever. Because they have forgotten to get the upside they need behind Bednar and Camilo Doval and Fernando Cruz. But they've also loaded it with guys who they can't cut or DFA. Like, if you get rid of Paul Blackburn, he's gone. I'm not saying you absolutely can't touch Paul Blackburn's roster spot. I'm just saying you brought him in. I don't think you're going to DFA him on February 25th. Like, I think you're going to carry him north if he's healthy. These things always work out, right? Players get injured, spots open up. But right now, you've got Bednar, Doval, Cruz, Tim Hill you're going to carry. You have to carry Cade Winquist or you lose him. So don't lose him. And then Ryan Yarbrough and Paul Blackburn. So you've got like 7 dudes who you have to bring north. You basically have 2 spots available. And that includes Brent Hedrick, who everyone's been gassing up, and who is a dude who, if you need lefty relief, you need power lefty relief, he can give that to you. That includes Jake Bird, who you didn't acquire at the deadline to stash at AAA forever. So hopefully he makes the roster on opening day. It would be hilariously painful if he can't grab a roster spot. And those 2 dudes, that's really it. Like, no one else. You're competing to beat out Hedrick right now. If you're Angel Chavi or Kervin Castro or whatnot. So, I mean, right now, pretty obvious. You want to bring Bird north. You want to bring Hedrick north, and that's your team. I think that's the reason why you're not looking at the Yankees still trying to sign Michael Kopech or Danny Coulomb or bringing in Jojo Romero in trade. But they probably do have to consider just one more viable reliever, one more real upgrade. And they have backed themselves into a weird corner by guaranteeing Paul Blackburn that money instead. So I don't think LaGrange is an opening day option. He's just going to need to continue working on himself as a starter. And then if they have to pull that emergency lever, or if they have to limit his innings midway through the season, you bring him up in August because you don't want him starting anymore. And guess what? We can now get a potential playoff secret weapon in here. But just be careful, because if it works, like K-Rod in 2002, you're not going to want to be like, wow, it was amazing watching that young dude throw 21 innings, 6-hit ball, and strike out 36 and lead us to a World Series. I can't wait till he's our 4 starter next year. Like, just doesn't work like that. You're gonna want him in the bullpen if he's awesome in the bullpen.
It's true. What else is awesome? Bryce Harper.
Is this awesome? I think this is kind of awesome.
Yeah, Bryce Harper. I asked again about these Dombrowski comments. I don't know when. Like, I get
really
that.
didn't like them. He really, really hated them.
How could you like them? There's no way to like them. He was asked again. He emphatically shot this down earlier in the offseason. Then he arrives at spring. He's asked about it again. Then said, quote, "It was wild that Dombrowski would say that because 2 reasons. One, Bryce made it clear that type of chatter or motivating tactic, if you will, if you want to call it that, indeed does not motivate him. And he also mentioned that upon his arrival in Philly, there was a general consensus agreement with everybody that stuff like this, right? Maybe not critical comments about your top player, but things that might have been sensitive or might have been susceptible to media blowing up a little bit would be kept in-house. And he said that was discussed before he signed the contract and after he signed the contract, and I think felt a little bit of betrayal here. If you do watch the clip, Dombrowski is not being malicious with his comments at all. It was just a crazy thing to say because you know how it's going to be clipped and you know how it's going to be packaged and sold to the readers and to the viewers. So as an executive who's been in the league for as long as he has and has probably seen nightmare PR situations at various stops he's been, I would agree with Bryce, a wild thing to say. In that same conversation, said it's going to be awesome hitting behind Aaron Judge in the World Baseball Classic, and he's excited for that. And Judge was the first player he mentioned and the first aspect of Team USA that he mentioned and went into the greatest detail about before obviously heaping praise on everybody. He mentioned Bobby Witt. He mentioned Kyle Schwarber. And is Kyle Schwarber, did he say Kyle Schwarber? He said something else about Kyle Schwarber, but either way, he talked about Skeens and Skubal. He was mentioning all these guys, but Judge was the first reference and had the most expanded upon him. And I think it has Yankees fans dreaming of something that's not going to happen. At this rate, I think a trade is before opening day is literally impossible.
Never, ever.
The Yankees the payroll would literally explode. If they figure out a salary matching situation, I don't even know what that would look like. But at the very least, I think we can keep our eyes peeled for maybe something at the trade deadline, maybe something next offseason, because it's clear Bryce isn't happy. And it's clear that if things don't go the Phillies' way in 2026, it could lead to an eventual parting of the ways. And the Yankees are going to have a number of guys hitting free agency. So you have Trent Grisham off the roster next year. You're going to have Paul Goldschmidt gone. You're going to have next year's the last year of Stanton, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a lot of things that are going to factor into the Yankees building their 2027 roster. And there is a path to acquire Bryce Harper. We're not dumb enough to think it's going to happen before opening day, but we're also not going to write it off for the trade deadline or next year. And the fact that he's saying this stuff is, I mean, it's got to raise some eyebrows. Some people out there have to be thinking about, I mean, if I was an executive, I'd be thinking about it. You think AJ Preller, for example, hasn't called Dave Dombrowski? Like, what's going on over there? Can we get Bryce Harper? We'll figure out a way to make it work. I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility that other GMs have been inquiring here.
I would be inquiring, frankly. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll inquire. Yes.
Prank phone call.
Yeah, I'm going to inquire. I'll tell them I'm Preller. Look, he's not coming to the Yankees, right? He's not. But I don't think it was.
You don't think next year he can maybe come to the Yankees?
I mean, he trade before opening day is insane. Michael Bullpen said that on PTI. He's like, no chance. I'm not ruling out a future of Bryce Harper on the Yankees.
Yeah, okay.
Especially with Stanton. And people famously blame Stanton for blocking the Yankees from pursuing Harper in the first place. Blame the team. Don't blame Stanton for that. But Harper grew up a fan of the mid-'90s Yankees dynasty. Mickey Mantle is a guy that we know that he has admired. So I don't think it's a coincidence that after basically being like, I thought we were taking care of stuff in-house. What is this, Dave? Why are we doing this? That the next place he would go was being like, man, playing with Aaron Judge next to each other in the same lineup. Holy shit, that'll be great. Because I do think he thinks that'd be great. Because I do think if he were to ever leave the Phillies, the Yankees would be top of his destination list. But you know what other team would be there? The Los Angeles Dodgers. Who only have Kyle Tucker for a short period of time because that's the way they constructed that contract. And they're always looking for top talent to frustrate people. Harper mentions Judge offhandedly, and we know his lifelong Yankee fandom, but he also keeps heaping praise on the Dodgers and what they do and saying, isn't this great for baseball? More teams should be like this. Anyone who hates this should come see me. So the teams that aren't the Phillies that he talks about the most, the Yankees and Dodgers, if Harper were to ever hit the open market, I bet it would be a bidding war between those two teams with a couple other teams mixed in, but looking in the distant line of horizon at the Yankees and Dodgers as they try to figure out the best possible trade packages. Maybe Bryce would have such strong feelings about the Yankees. Maybe he'd want to make the Yankees again so strongly that he would be like, you know what? Hate the Dodgers now. Screw this. The Yankees should be doing what the Dodgers have been doing, and I'm going to be the one to bring them back and help them get there. But I do think you would probably see the Dodgers in that mix. And I don't know if you'd love the result of those trade talks.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, anything where the door is open for a possibility of, I think most Yankees fans, doesn't even matter if it's toward the end of his career, you want to see a couple years of Bryce Harper as a Yankee. I think it's kind of imperative. And look, Bryce Harper is not going to be what is he entering? His age 33 or 34 season at this point? He's right on par with Judge. Like they're the same age.
Yeah,
They're the same age.
He's 33. 33. Yeah, he turns 34 in next October.
Yeah, he's entering his age 33 season. So look, Bryce Harper is not going to be a 5 or 6 WAR player. I mean, he's kind of not anymore. He was a 4.8 WAR in 2020. The last time he eclipsed 5 WAR was 2021. I think his MVP days are probably behind him. He's had trouble staying healthy. That's been a lot of the online discourse lately. But Bryce Harper is going to be a tough at bat for most of his 30s. He might not be raking in 30-plus home runs, but that's a guy I want up in the bottom of the 8th inning with a runner in scoring position, and you need an insurance run or you need to break the tie. Like, sign me up for that, dude. I understand that it would come at a premium if he's still making $30+ million, but that's what the Yankees can pay. And that's kind of the element of the team that they need. They need a gritty veteran like this able to rise to the occasion. I understand that his World Series with the Phillies back in 2022 didn't go as planned. But this is a guy who has historically risen to the occasion and is a gamer and elevates his play in the spotlight. I think across the board, maybe the postseason numbers aren't totally there. Again, that was another online discourse. I don't know. People were taking, like, Phillies fans and Nationals fans were getting bent out of shape about this for whatever reason. Yeah. I really don't know why. Like, if you're a Phillies fan, you should be supporting what he's saying. But yeah, no, Bryce Harper's postseason numbers are there. 274 with a 986 OPS.
Did he not just win the NLCS with the swing of his life 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Postseason struggles are there until they're not, and they weren't there in 2022 at all.
I mean, against the Braves in the NLDS in 2023, he hit 3 homers, and then in the NLCS against the Diamondbacks, he hit 2 homers and drove in 3 runs, and the Phillies blew that series. Like, I mean, you're not going to be able to come through in every circumstance, but in 57 career games, you have 17 homers, 34 RBIs. And 8 stolen bases. He's getting on base at almost a 400 clip, slugging at almost a 600 clip. I take that every time, and I take it especially if he's in a talented lineup later in his career and is just asked to give this young flamethrower on the mound some fits right now. You know, bully him, work a walk, put some bat on ball, test the defense out. Like that to me is like the ladder of Bryce Harper's career, like being a pesky at bat on a World Series contender. And like, I'm not going to rule that out for the Yankees. I think it'd be really cool.
986 playoff OPS. He's 5-8 in playoff series, but like, this dude is a playoff riser. Yep. But I guess also, no, he's not, because he's a regular season riser also. He's just
Good. Just the trouble with the health. And I get the concerns there because like there is a lot of that, especially since he began his Phillies tenure. He hasn't played more than 145 games and he's only played over 140 twice. Every other season he's missed a chunk of 30, 40 games. So that's a bit of an issue.
Yeah, high intensity, strong player. Maybe the injury issues play into his availability being a little bit different than what we might have expected. The New York Mets, I'll say, I don't even really want to talk about it. Congrats to them on bringing Mike Tauchman in. Mike Tauchman, minor league deal, another former Yankee.
Crazy.
Ben Rortvedt claimed by the Mets, another former Yankee this week. And Luke Weaver, even our friend Luke Weaver, being his usual quirky jungle cat. Hey, we love Luke Weaver. No comment on how much I like him, but Mets fan asked him, yelled out at spring training in the bullpen, like, oh, wouldn't you, aren't you? We're so glad the Mets are better than the Yankees. Thanks for joining us. And he said, I'm going to strongly agree with you right now. Just like Luke Weaver being hey, maybe the bag was nothing, but he's certainly not just shrugging and smiling at the fan who said that. Strongly agree. So
it was a little kid. Another context thing. It was a literal 6-year-old. So he was probably looking to entertain there. The bag thing. Red Sox reporter said that Wilson Contreras called the Red Sox and made sure that he had a bag shipped to him because he didn't want to arrive at camp with a Cardinals bag. So, just saying.
We were told it wasn't possible and it was standard practice. Can it be both? Like, it is standard practice. A lot of random people have been showing up with random bags all spring, but Wilson Contreras made sure that he didn't have an awkward entrance to Boston, and he called ahead and he got that done. And that's going from the Cardinals to the Red Sox, two teams with zero rivalry history. Luke Weaver, it could have just been, it was a mistake, negligence, but don't act like he couldn't have corrected it. He could have.
Well, yeah. The people come like Caleb Durbin and Anthony Siegler arriving to Red Sox camp with Brewers bags made sense. They got traded less than 48 hours prior. Luke Weaver signed his contract over 2 months ago. This was a done deal. And Yankees Mets has significance. Yankees Red Sox has significance. I did see there was another instance where like somebody showed up with a Cubs bag somewhere, but it was
Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper showed up with a Dave Dombrowski's disembodied head bag. I thought that was kind of inappropriate.
It was just like it was one of those things where you don't think about it because there's no issue and rivalry between the fans and the teams. So it's like, oh yeah, he just needed a new bag and didn't get one in time. But like again, for you to show up to camp with a rival's bag or with a bag who the fan base hates, it's just bizarre, especially when there was time in between. I didn't really harp on it, but everybody was getting bent out of shape about it. I called it objectively weird to do that. And Mets fans, I don't know why they're coming to Luke Weaver's defense like that. Very weird. It's all weird. Like, you can't have a comment now without getting ganged up on social media. I mean, it's been the case for like 5 years, but talking about a bag. Just give me a break. But yeah, I mean, the Mets continuing to sign former Yankees. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it either. I think these guys are good players. Like I would take Ben Rortvedt back on the Yankees at this point based on the work that he did with the Dodgers. It's a good depth piece for the Mets to have. Tauchman was a 2-WAR player last year. I don't know why he's getting a minor league contract. I don't know why he was non-tendered by the White Sox, right? Like that was a bizarre offseason storyline too. So I don't know what that is there, but yeah, I mean, the Mets claiming they're significantly better than the Yankees when they are adding all the former Yankees that the Yankees are getting rid of and are succeeding without. I don't know. Funny.
112 OPS plus for Mike Tauchman last year. Good player. I'd take him back, but instead he went to the Mets because that's where all the former Yankees go. Well, we got Rafael Montero, so that's that. Thanks everyone for joining us again. Tuesday. We're not going to be here all the time. We're going to be here on Monday and on Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. That's when you can get used to us. If you're watching us, thanks. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, why don't you give us a subscribe, rate, review us. Tell us what you think. If it's under 5 stars, we'll try to make it better. Always appreciate the commenters showing up, letting us know what's what. We'll be back on Thursday to talk more spring training storylines, get you geared up for the first game of this spring on Friday afternoon. And then I'm going to be gone on Monday. I'll actually be in Florida. So if you're in the Tampa area, feel free to harass my lift. I'm Adam Weinrib. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. Thomas Carinante, where can the people find you?
At Tommy's_takes. You found me on TikTok. I knew you guys _takes there. You're hating my videos. I love it. You can find us at the official Yanks Go Yard social media accounts. That is at Yanks Go Yard FS. Don't forget, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Those of you who are here probably got that little ding, that notification. We're going live. Hey, we're here. That's how you're tuning in. That's how you got to know when we're going live in the future. Appreciate you guys listening and reading, as always, yanksgoyard.com. Don't forget about it. Everything spring training, everything Yankees for the next few months. Enjoy it. Enjoy reading. Have yourselves a great week. We'll be back in a few days. Hopefully some spring training developments, maybe a preview of Friday's game. You never know. 2 games, right?
Yeah, we'll see when we come back on Thursday. There will not have been a game played, but man,
no,
Friday's game, Saturday's game. I mean, there's business to attend to, and we'll get you set up for that. So we appreciate you joining us. Take care, everybody. Talk to you Thursday.